Okay, so, HSR 3.4 has been out for about a week and a half now, and the buffs are here. And I have done quite a bit of testing with all of the units, a little less with Kafka. And I can say with certainty, the buffs matter. Now, do note, my account is unrelatable. I have verticality on all three of the DPS that have been buffed. I have an E6 Robin. I now have an E1 Tribbie, which is honestly the most relatable part of all this. But I've done a lot of testing, and I can say with absolute certainty, the buffs mattered. I am not a huge proponent for large buffs in games like this, because it can throw a wrench in the release cycle, potentially lead to the devs making less money, and could hurt the game's sales in the long term. And if we want HSR to last a long time, we don't want its sales tanking. That said, I am happy with how the buffs went through. So I'm going to show an MOC 12 run with every one of the buffed units. They are all relatively high cost runs. Silver Wolf will be shown with Acheron and Tribbie. Kafka is E2 being shown with my E6 Robin. And Jingliu is E2, Blade is E1, and both are being showcased with Sunday Hyacine Tribbie. So, I will say, if you don't necessarily think that this is a good showcase, I don't know. I agree it's probably not the best. You'd rather see E0S0 everywhere or E0S1 everywhere, but this is the account of someone who has used Kafka since the day she released. Or, I mean, I took an obvious long break from using her, but I've been using Kafka since day one of... or not day one. I've been using Kafka a very long time. I was a Jingliu main for a pretty long time, and I only recently got Blade, but I invested very little resin into him from just things that I had lying around on my account, and he's performing great. So, Kafka here, we're almost at a one cycle clear of Wave 1. Remember, she's off element for the majority of 12-1 here. Acheron is also going to be off element, so Silver Wolf is going to look a little off because it's off element, or not a little off, but like we're playing off element for Silver Wolf's showcase as well. Jingliu and Blade are going to look a lot better because they're being showcased on element. I did Huohuo for Blade. But Kafka is performing really nicely here, and I guess we'll talk about what I feel about the buffs as we go through. The Kafka buffs, they gave her almost everything I could have wanted. Her skill now detonates all three enemies it hits and not just the center target. Her follow-up attack now detonates, and she has multiple stacks. She can follow-up attack off of more than just basics. Kafka feels really good. I don't love the idea of moving her over to an Eagle Von Whack driver. But I am looking forward to attempting to play DOT a lot more, and we know Hyacine is coming up, and I have a lot of interest in getting her because that could be my lightning DPS problem fixed. I think Black Swan could be due for buffs, but Kafka feels good again. I don't think she was ever close to the best DPS. I mean, she was competing with Jingliu in her own role on release, and regardless of how mid you thought he was on release, he was still pretty solid. And Kafka was being forced to use Asta Sampo at that point, so... yeah. I mean, she's seen better places in the meta, but she feels like a complete unit again. I'm enjoying playing her. She feels a lot more fluid to play. And I think that's what the buffs should do. A lot of these older units have very clunky kits. And modernizing them up a little bit like this is really nice. I don't know if my voice is going to be able to handle 25 minutes of this. Yeah, I've said basically the same thing about Kafka every single time I've mentioned it, but she's competent, which is something she hasn't been in a very long time. The first video of me actually playing the game on this channel, I was using Acheron, and it was not particularly good. So, to see DOT putting up a pretty respectable performance, we're looking at 3 cycles here, off element, with a blessing that I don't think really benefits DOT. That's not too shabby. So, I definitely think Kafka was not the biggest winner. I think she was probably the 3rd biggest winner out of the 4. But, like, I mean, this is an instance where all of the units won. One a little less than the others, and we'll talk about that as soon as I check. Or no, wait, I checked my builds at the start. We'll talk about that. Not here. I forgot the order. Silverwolf was one of the top 2 winners for sure. This is my Acheron that I have complained about to no end on this channel. I updated her build again recently. I updated Silverwolf's build during a period of trying to make Acheron function somewhat recently. Her talents aren't, or traces aren't finished. And I do notably have E1 Tribbie now. I have tried this with Robin as well, my E6 Robin. I mean, it's E6 Robin. The main thing, I think Tribbie is higher stack gen, and the true damage actually matters a lot for Acheron. And we're using Hyacine because she provides debuffs better than any other sustain I have, because my Lingsha and Aven are both S0. I know this is the Hyacine Tribbie. Oh, wheelchair! Acheron's getting carried, but we're not here to look at Acheron. We're here to look at Silverwolf. I think Silverwolf is the hardest to gauge how good she's become. It probably could be a little better if I was using Emiya, but I don't have his Light Cone yet, so that's not really in the cards. I did not pre-farm for him at all, and I have barely done any pulls this patch. The bulk of them are going to be on Artoria. But Silverwolf feels a lot better. The lower EHR requirements I haven't really felt yet because I haven't updated her build since the buffs, but the energy at the start of turn is so nice, and the AoE defense shred is so nice when paired with a unit like Acheron, who's swinging DOT anyway, or DOT, AoE anyways. The implants carrying over to enemies who died, still not super relevant. I mean, it's important to have, but I don't find it relevant, especially in this MOC, because my Acheron takes so long to kill everything anyways. Silverwolf is a unit that I had my reservations about when she released. When she came out, everyone was saying, oh, she's future-proof. She's the only unit that breaks the game in this way. If you pull her, you're going to have an easy time forever. And I looked at the writing on the walls, and I said, this unit has no shelf life, because as your account gets better, she gets worse. And now, I think she provides more utility than just the implant and a big single-target death shred. She fits wherever Pela could, but slightly better, because her AoE death shred is finally better than Pela's. Implant is still a nice tech to have if you need to force something. And she's relatively SP positive as well, which helps a lot with Emiya, who just came out today. So, Silverwolf is a unit I have spoken very negatively on in the past, and they managed to make me enjoy using her, for context on how big the buffs were. It's the hardest to see an impact for because she's a support, and because she's a support that's still somewhat niche, that's only really seeing use with, like, Acheron and Enya. And I don't have a very good Acheron, and I don't have a built Enya. So, it's definitely hard to visualize how much better Silverwolf is. But I tried using Silverwolf with, Silverwolf Pela into Flame Reaver a couple MOCs ago. Lower health threshold. I tried, like, Silverwolf Pela and Silverwolf Sunday, and Acheron was clearing in, like, 14 cycles, and she's going to put up a very respectable 3 here, which, for my Acheron, that's incredible. She hasn't hit that since 2.2. And she did that with Robin as well. Just checking my stats there, my crit rate is a little low on Acheron. But she did that with Robin as well as Tribbie. Tribbie has some debuffs in her kit that give her that merit, so I decided to try Tribbie here. And I know E1 Tribbie is going to be a lot more relatable than E6 Robin. Even if you're going to say, oh, well, if it's still an Eidolon, it's unrelatable. E1 Tribbie is the best Eidolon in the game, and E0 Tribbie is not a unit I thought very highly of. So, I do highly recommend getting E1 Tribbie if you can. And even here, I spend the entire last cycle without Tribbie's skill up. The Pneumosity, the all-type res pen, is not up for the majority of this health bar. And through Silverwolf, and I mean, Silverwolf's ult isn't up for a lot of it too, but through Silverwolf, we're able to kind of cover for that. And I know I've brought up Enya. Silverwolf and Tribbie are competitive for Enya. And keep that in mind when most people think Tribbie is the best Harmony in the game, and Silverwolf has been a tier 4 unit for the past 2 years. Having this niche unit that has been considered so bad for so long be competitive with the must-pull character that's on banner right now is pretty impressive. Now, a unit that I will not speak super highly of on the buffs, but I will say the buffs were good, but the way they were executed were not, was Jingliu. I was a Jingliu main early on. I have an E2S1 Jingliu. I am not a big fan of how they buffed Jingliu. She has too much crit damage now, to the point where Sunday causes diminishing returns, but Sunday also is significantly better than Bronya, because Bronya has a wasted attack buff that Sunday that's going into crit for Sunday, which, while unfortunate with the fact that Jingliu herself has such high crit buffs in her kit, Sunday kind of makes up for that with the energy and higher buffs that she cares about, but it is definitely rough. She would have... I mean, there's no way to buff her where Bronya is still better than Sunday, I feel. No matter what, she's going to have some dysfunctional slot on her team. But being an HP scaler gives her Tribbie Hyacine, which, again, some people call the wheelchair comp, but they work really well with HP scalers, and there's a plethora of them now. There's Maide, there's Blade, there's Jingliu, there's Castris. And Jingliu has been the unit whose performance I have felt improve the most from the buffs, because my Blade was already performing relatively well. I had a really good build on him that needed to be slightly tweaked to speed tune him to Sunday, but not a lot, so he's still absurd. He has one of the best builds on my account, and since getting him, I got his E1 by losing my 50-50 for Iglea, And E1 Blade is, realistically speaking, E1 Blade is a 3.x DPS that released in 1.2, and you might already have him. 3.x, I think, has been a relatively healthy time for power creep, even though we've seen a lot of HP inflation. I think the units are all relatively comparable. But like, Jingliu's hitting 400k single target off element, and that's sick. That's higher than she was hitting in 3 targets on element 2 patches ago with her best team. My Jingliu went from 6 cycling Pollux using this comp here to comfortably 1 cycling True Sting. And, I mean, yeah, wheelchair comp, but Hyacine has so much synergy with Jingliu, and Blade as well, where she's constantly pinging, which means they're both getting their stacks more often. She's a great healer. She's giving 30% max HP, so they have higher stat to scale off of. And Tribbie, also HP scaler, her damage is going up inherently from Jingliu being on the team with a high HP stat. Because she takes part of the team's max HP into her own HP buff. But, like, a lot of people have been saying, oh, the Jingliu buff doesn't feel all that different. My Jingliu was sure as hell not comfortably getting through bar 1. I mean, it's bar 1, but she was not getting through half of a fight on MOC 12 in 0 cycles. This is on, like, if this was a 1-bar fight with this much health, and I mean, obviously a 1-bar fight would have more health, that is practically a 0 cycle. And that's before doing one last skill. We're getting a third of the way through the 2nd bar in cycle 0 on a unit that used to be, again, like tier 4. I am really pleased with the Jingliu buff. She's outperforming my Herda. I don't have an Axa, I don't have E2 Herda, but my Jingliu is significantly outperforming my Herda. And that's with her dud of an E2. Her E2 never did anything, realistically speaking. But even with that dud of an Eidolon that I regret, she's, like, outperforming Herda. Herda, who people said broke the game and was the only DPS you'd need for this patch cycle, is getting outdone by the clearest example of direct power creep in this game. And now, one more. We're going to do the stats at the end of this one because I had to do second side. We have Blade. I think Blade, ironically, was the best of these 4 units before getting directly buffed because he got so many indirect buffs. He got this team, for example, and he felt really good already when I got him from Standard. I got him to 4666, and he was 3 cycling off element on a bad team because I was using Robin. And with an E0 Tribbie to boot, he was 3 cycling off element. And now Huohuo himself is on element, but this wave is mostly off element. And you're gonna see some wild numbers here once he gets fully buffed. This ult won't be, because we don't have a Sunday buff, but 450k. We used to say 300k was unreachable for him. And yet now, we're seeing 400k normals. And I was blown away by the number you're about to see on this follow-up attack. 300k is unreachable for him, you may say. He says back, 800k is more than reachable. Blade just... he got all of the benefits of Jingliu and getting good new supports that were basically tailor-made for him, whether directly or not, mixed with really big direct buffs, and now he's outperforming Maide, who is a really good DPS in his own right. And Blade is a unit that you can get from Standard. He is the, outside of Amiya, Ratio, and the Anniversary Selector units, he's the easiest limited unit to get because he's going to be on banner while being on the Standard banner. If you want Blade, odds are you will get him at some point. Either you already had him, you've already lost to him, or you can pull on his banner and get him. But he's putting up performance like this as what used to be the gag DPS. This was the unit everyone thought was horrible and unsalvageable. Like, 2 weeks after his release, everyone was making memes about how shit he is. And here he is, performing the same as a unit that's outperforming one of the current meta DPS. And I will note, my Blade has a lot of room for improvement. I did buy his S1 from the shop because I had nothing else to do with the currency. I mean, Luocha's Light Cone for Lingsha is still tempting, but I haven't been playing break teams a lot lately. And I'll be able to afford another one this patch anyways. So if I really want Luocha's Cone, I can go for it. But, like, this is an E1 S1 standard unit, basically, and he's performing like this. He's performing relative to the meta better. 300k single target. We used to say 300k blast was unreachable for him. And I mean, it misses there, but whatever. Blade feels really good. Blade is, in my opinion, a legitimate meta DPS now, despite being a unit you can lose to for your 50-50s. I think he is the best wind destruction released this patch, and we've had the most hyped up character throughout this game's life cycle in Artoria from Fate release this patch. And again, my Blade's talents, or traces, I'm Genshin brain rot for some reason, are not finished. I think he could zero cycle if I were to finish his traces, which I will probably do after building up the Fate units. I care quite a bit about the Fate units. I really like UBW. I was an FGO player for 4 years. I feel my throat getting scratchy. He's on the same team as Jingliu, same pieces. And again, I know some people are going to argue, oh, you're using an E1 Tribbie on 3 of these teams. You're using an E6 Robin on 1 of these teams. You're using Hyacine on 3 of these teams. These are all wheelchair supports that can bring bad units to relevance. And I don't think this performance is that of a bad unit being brought to relevance. I mean, Acheron's maybe a little, but Blade, Jingliu, and Kafka, to some extent, feel like real units getting to play the game with real supports. Supports are the most important part of this game. I would not call wheelchair supports a bad thing, because they give old units new life, even if they are ubiquitous in team building. So, my verdict on the buffs, I think these actually were executed really well. I am scared to see characters I don't like get buffed in the future, like Danhong Imbibitor Lune buffs are going to scare me, because I thought that unit was the best in the game for at least a year, or not at least a year, but close to a year. And I'm scared that he could reclaim that over more recent units with just a couple changes. I like that they didn't give flat number buffs, but instead gave huge damage buffs through just slight changes to the kit. I like that these units feel fresh in their design. And it gave me something to do, because I wasn't interested in Finon. I was waiting for the Fate banners. I don't really have the pulls for the Fate banners yet, but they'll come. So it was nice to have these functionally new units to toy around with already built on my account. It didn't take a ton of resin, but to answer the question in the title, yes, the buffs mattered. Thank you for watching.